non-precision approaches. At this point, you should be comfortable with all the numbers. I should fly a few of these approaches visually. And now it's time to do the deed and enter the muck and flyer this true instrument meteorological condition. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be flying the VOR approach into Hartford. I've done this one before, but after seeing the last couple videos, you should be a little bit more ready for it as far as I kind of hitting some of the challenges we're going to have here. So there's a lot of stuff we're going to have to get set up in order to be able to safely do this approach. Fortunately, we've got ourselves a nice little holding pattern that we're about to be entering into. We're going to be holding at 20 inches of mercury here to make it nice and easy for the purposes of getting set up. So what do we need to do? The first thing we're going to have to do is we'll take a look at our little approach plate here. I'm going to open it up real fast. We're going to be crossing over this one. It's going to be the 334 radial. Our final approach is going to be, let's see here, 2,500 feet. We're going to be crossing the VOR-DME here on the 334. We're going to ride the 334 down to Zovox. That's going to be at 1,200 feet or less. Past Zovox, of course. If we were doing a circling approach, we'd have to be a little bit lower. But we're going to go down to 580 feet, and we need 1 mile visibility, which we have. So I'm not stressing about that too much. So we're going to hit Zovox at 1,200. We're going to keep gliding down until we hit just about 600 feet. And then, of course, we're just going to cruise along until we hit 7.1 in the DME. And that is going to be our missed approach point. Our entitled approach, we're actually going to be taking at 90 knots. That's going to take us 4 minutes and 44 seconds to go from Hartford VOR-DME all the way down to MAVD. So those are kind of the critical numbers. The numbers we need to know. We need to know that what our frequency is going to be a 114.9er. We'll have to identify that it is the correct one. We, of course, have our airport elevation. We have our manifold pressure set. We have our atmospheric pressure set for altimeter. All those items have been set. Our missed approach here, of course, we're going to be coming down here. We're going to take a long right turn. We're going to proceed to Rainbow intersection. This is going to be a bit of a project for us to find because we're going to need to have the Norwich VOR here. That's a 110.0. Or we could also use Putnam for the purposes of lining ourselves up here. The downside to Putnam, of course, is we need that cross in order to make that a little bit easier. It's actually going to be a pain in the butt to find if we need to locate that point. All right, let's get back. All right, so we're in a hold right now. The hold is great for us because it gives us time to kind of work things out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select 334, which, as you recall, is going to be what we're going to use for the purposes of our approach here. So there's our 334. That's going to be the one. We're going to make sure our frequency is set correctly for Hartford here. I'm going to press that one. We're going to do 11490. Go ahead and do the swapperoo real quick. Looks good to me. We're going to swing that over. Of course, this is really Hartford here. We'd be calling them up. Oop. Just like that. So we can give them a quick little call and sort of let them know what's going on. Keep in mind, in the real world, when we fly this approach, Bradley's going to be doing all the hard work for us. They're not the one flying the plane, but of course, we'll be having fun with that. Okay, so everything's all set. We're configured. We're going to be taking advantage of the knowledge that we've acquired the last couple videos here. We're going to be using 11 inches for that purposes of crossing Hartford VOR, and then we're going to be using 14 inches for the purposes of kind of getting us on that initial descent there. We're going to fly the entire approach nice and dirty here, just for the purposes of just simplifying procedures for us. A lot of times what will happen is you'll be doing this like in a Bradley or something, which is a big international airport. If we're doing something along those lines, of course, we'd have to keep that in mind. We'd have to actually basically keep our speeds up, in which case we need to know a whole new set of numbers in order to do most of the approach at 120 knots, so we don't have to do that panic chop and drop at the end there. Especially for this approach, because you don't arrive at the airport remotely close to lined up, that chop and drop is a little sketchy to execute. All right, everything's looking really good now. All right, one mental check here. We're on 1149er. We're about that distance. That sounds pretty good to me. You can see what radial we're currently on. This number's going to change very rapidly. That looks pretty good. Our engine's set. We're at 20 inches mercury, which is kind of I call it our holding power sort of a thing. I don't want to be going too fast. I'm getting like 140 indicated, and I think over the ground. Let's see what we're getting here. Yeah, we're getting about 140 over the ground, so we're moving perfectly fast here. We've confirmed everything we need to confirm as far as frequencies. We've got our altimeter. Everything's all been preset here, so we're looking really good. So what I'm going to be doing is transitioning from my GPS, which is what I'm using right now. And yes, I am flying this with an autopilot at the moment, just to simplify things so I can explain it as I go. Keep in mind that when you're doing a real instrument check ride, they'll fail your autopilot on you. So if you rely on it too heavily, I promise it'll stop working when you need it the most, like these kinds of approaches. All right, so we're lined up with Hartford. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to go ahead, this is just a tip that I've learned, we're going to go ahead and synchronize my heading real quick here with the heading that we need to be on, which is basically straight off the nose here. It's going to be about 334. It looks good to me. Go ahead and activate heading hold. I'm going to just go ahead and change off my CDI real quick, and I'm going to go activate navigational hold. The reason I did that is because it tends to have a little bit less of this. It's worth noting, by the way, that these VOR signals are very wide, just because it looks like it's nice and precise here. In the real plane, this needle will go, whoa. And you'd be basically guessing. All right, let's reduce power. I'm going to get ourselves down to that 90 knots, which is going to be that approach speed. And what we're hoping to do here is go ahead and establish ourselves with an initial thing. Let's go ahead and get everything pre-programmed. Getting down, getting nice and slow. Get ready to approach. Get ready. Here we go. Always take a breath. Relax. You know what you're doing. Take your time. Take your time. There's no rush here. All right, get ready. Start ready. Get ready to set your stop. Remember, you're going to set your stopwatch and start your descent as soon as you cross that position. All right, we're a little low on power here. That's okay, though. And 7 seconds. 5, 4, 3. Ready? 12 inches, and let's go. All right, approach begins. So I'm going to dirty up the plane. I'm going to go increase to our 14 inches. I'm going to go ahead and activate all the good stuff that we need. And we're just going to get about 500 feet per minute going down. There we go, right there. And a little bit more. There we go, sweet. So I've set my stopwatch. It's rolling away. Remember, we're looking at 4 minutes and 44 seconds. All right, down we go. Now notice, my 14 inches has been set. The only thing I'm doing right now is just flying the plane. Doing my good instrument skills. There's no automatic pilot right now. Getting bounced around, trying to hold that steady 500 feet per minute. Trim is your friend, unless you're playing Microsoft Flight Simulator, in which case trim is not your friend. It's your, I don't want to call it your nemesis. Let's just say it's unfriendly, to say the least. It's looking pretty good there. I'm going to go swing back this way. Again, use our good instrument turn technique. Getting a little slow, that usually means that we probably either set our power wrong or, we're going, our descent rate is incorrect. Is usually what that's indicative of. All right, continue, just relaxing. Zovox is 2 minutes and 15 seconds away. I got plenty of time. I'm nice and cool. If I get to Zovox, if I get down to 1,200 feet before I hit Zovox, I have to level off at Zovox. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Please don't try to explain things as you fly an instrument approach in the real world. You will find yourself instantaneously overwhelmed. Oh my gosh. Okay, I actually need to stop talking for a second here. To minimums. Or not minimums, I should say. Not at all 500 to minimums. All right, looking pretty good. Looking pretty good. Man, I'm glad I have no failed instruments right now. That is for another video. We're going to start canceling it out. Again, notice I have not touched the throttle. That looks pretty good right there. I got a bit of a crosswind again. Looks like we are going to be getting to Zovox a little early. I'm actually going to level the plane off just a tiny bit. By reducing my vertical speed just a touch, it's going to cause my ground speed to decrease a little bit, which is going to actually do two things for us. It's going to get us a little bit later to the target, and it's also going to guarantee that I don't overshoot it, because I've got 1 minute to go and 1.3 nautical miles to go to it. So I've got plenty of time to get to Zovox right now. All right, keep flying the plane. Not the best day to be flying non-precision approaches, not gonna lie. Of course, they're approaches for a reason. All right, about 500. Getting a little slow, but that's okay. Remember, as I mentioned, we noticed that we were a little early there. Could have had a bit of a headwind, things like that. All right, looks like my power is scrolled up a little bit. That's what it's going to do as you approach. Let's get lower. 1,200 feet. Gonna hold the nose up. All right, this is the hard part. So when you do this, of course, we need to know exactly what power is going to be required to hold this level here. Fortunately, it's not much. I just give it a quick little tap. And we were about 15 seconds early. That's not bad. I don't fly non-precision approaches every day here. All right, just keep flying the plane. Just keep flying the plane. Looks good. Looks good. And that's Zovox right there. All right, nose down. We're going to go ahead and drop our power back down to 14 inches again. And we're going to continue our approach. We're just going to make our way down. So two things are going to happen. We're either going to hit 7.1 in the DME. I'm watching, we're at 5.4 right now. Or we're going to see the airport. Or, of course, those things are going to happen simultaneously, which is absolutely the worst. Okie dokie then. Let's keep flying. Just relax. Just relax. It's hard to say that. It's much harder to say that. Hey, airport in sight. Look at that. Not bad. I'm not going to lie. I got a little tense for a second there. Alrighty then. So as you can see, the technique still works. We were able to make our non-precision approach. We were able to find our airport. We did almost descended below one of the altitudes that we were required to maintain, but you can see that we were able to still execute the safe approach, still find the airport, and you can see just because we took all that extra time to make our calculations as to what kind of powers that we actually needed, we were able to execute this very, very easily. Again, that could have been a really, really, really bare, white knuckle kind of approach there, but the reality was it actually wasn't bad at all. Now, for those of you who are looking for the added challenge, feel free to go do this one over in VR. It's quite a bit. Now, one of the things I had mentioned in the other video is the fact that when you do these approaches, gumps checks. One of the things I had mentioned in the previous video is that one of the things will happen sometime is air traffic control will request that you do the approach at a higher speed on account of traffic that's usually behind you. Now, when you do that, that's going to require a whole new set of techniques because now we're going to have to start worrying about getting the plane ready for landing and everything like that. All right, over the end of the threshold. This is a chop and drop situation here. I really hate the seating position of this thing. Like the real plane, I sit back kind of far, so it's like really easy to see my speeds here. All right, nose up, and we're just gonna wait for the bump. Still got a little crosswind, but that's okay. And we're down, crosswind conditions. Plane doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. As always, enjoy.